get started. I think that our folks here will go on. So we have so call everyone to order. Welcome to November, and I hope everyone has had a warm and socially and physically fulfilling holiday. If you traveled, good to see you back safely. All right. I'm going to turn it over to Will to introduce our speaker, who I believe is here.
And I believe, unless he has the ability to hear at this moment, I am introducing Larry tonight. So Larry Nelson is now the interim security. Sorry, Larry, you're gonna have to remind me of your exact title over at Franklin Park. But formerly of the Columbus Police, and this was our way of getting introduced to who he is, and then what some of the things that they're hoping to implement at the conservatory, and just a way for us in the neighborhood to get to know what's going on and what the conservatory is doing. So please take it away.
Thank you, Kristen. Hi, everybody. It's nice to meet you tonight. I'm glad to see this this group coming together. So I think it's really positive. So quick intro just about myself, a little bit about the past. You are correct. I'm retired from Columbus Division of Police. I did 28 years in policing, the majority of it with Columbus. The largest portion of my career was spent on Columbus's west side. So if I've got any west side transplants, good to see you that have moved out east. I spent 2013 through 2015 out specifically in your neighborhood, in your precinct, before I went into the training academy in 2015, and I finished from there. My primary job there was the advanced training unit and also doing a lot of community speaking. I was doing the programs that we have for active aggressor response or active shooter response, looking at planning, assisting schools with their drills, making sure they had their state certifications. And then my other big job was to train the adult, as I like to call them, police officers, making sure they had their state certifications in place prior to, well, annually, because if you don't, then you can't work. So those were my primary duties, but they extended pretty far. I'm also retired military. I retired from the Navy last year after 20 plus years there. And my primary jobs there were, as I escalated or moved through the enlisted ranks, was anti-terrorism and force protection and policing and things of that nature. And then I finally finished as the the senior enlisted advisor for several groups of people in different countries doing different things across the seas. So that's a little bit of my background. I do have a bachelor's degree in law enforcement education, law enforcement information, and I have a lot of other technical degrees also that help me or assist me with what I'm doing right now as with my job with my company, Safe Passage Consulting. And I am the current interim security director for Franklin Park Conservatory. So that's all that in a nutshell. How we doing so far? Everybody good? I put anybody to sleep yet? That was a lot of information. So, all right, great. The big thing for me coming into Franklin Park, we had done a vulnerability assessment there and determined that you needed a full-time security director. So I'm acting in the interim for the next year. I'll be there until the end of July or the first part of August. My job is to take a look at all the things we found in the vulnerability assessment and Franklin Park and how it associates with the park itself, and then help create changes. And one of the things I want to know is I want to know the people around the park. And because I know that it's a big focal point for everybody there, and it always has been. I know that I also, when I was working, I would frequently go over to the park to park usually on the south side of the park over on Franklin Park and eat my lunch, talk to people, just listen to what was going on, listen to concerns and complaints, etc. But keep in mind that was 2013, 14, and 15, and a lot of things have changed since then. So, and I'm very aware of that. But it goes back to a concept that I absolutely believe is that the community is the best resource to assist people that we have that are tools to help gauge or help assist with problems that we have. And I think Franklin Park Conservatory can help with that because it's such a focal point of the community. So I started looking at the problems we had there, which are very similar to the ones you have in the community. Theft, yes. Automobile theft, yes. Automobiles that are stolen and dumped in our parking lots. Yes. Vandalism, Yes, vagrancy and or homelessness, or I believe the other terminology is displaced or just how displaced people. Yes, we're experiencing all that as well as you in the community. So how do we take a more proactive approach to that and not only solve problems for Franklin Park Conservatory, but at the same time incorporating people like you and your organization to assist overall? We help each other. So what I always like to say is I like to go back to that theory of help me help you, if that makes sense, and vice versa. And I think that's how we solve a lot of these problems that you see going on around in the park. Very quickly, I will add that it's an interesting situation how Franklin Park Conservatory is like located within Franklin Park. And for those of you who don't know, technically Franklin Park Conservatory is leasing the space that belongs to the city, which is in fact Franklin Park. And in a handshake kind of a deal, what they've asked us to do is not only be there, as we are there, is to keep up the grounds and to help with whatever small problems or problems may be occurring on the property. So that's been one of the things we've been doing lately. And I'm looking for ways to develop better response, not only from us, but with you as the community helping, but also with Columbus PD and utilizing the other resources that have been built recently within the city of Columbus pertaining to certain topics, which I'm sure all of you are very well versed in on how to get things done or the length of time it takes to get things done. For instance, like using 311. Have you all used 311 at some point? I would say yes or no. I see some yeses, definitely. Okay, so that being the case, we know that 311 is slow and getting immediate response is very difficult. And what I'd like to do is through my um, changing of policies and procedures within the conservatory, pass those on and along to you and help you at the same time. So again, we're all still working towards the same goals. And as a matter of fact, I believe Julianne, you brought up
Listen on my phone
the
now.
notice that you got for Shot Spotter, correct? Yeah, so I reached out to Lieutenant Crop, who is the second shift lieutenant for the area there around Franklin Park and in your community. And I'm going to get some insight from him on that and why that ended up with you guys. It's through City of Columbus. I'll find out what the program is. I'll be glad to pass that along to you. All right. So there's times when I can use my old skills. I just retired in January. And Lieutenant Crop is actually somebody I trained. That's how old I am, and that's how long I've been doing the job. So it's just one of those things where I would like to use some of the communication assets that I have in order to assist you, and then vice versa, how you can assist me as well by educating me about what's going on in the area. So how does that sound overall so far? How we doing? Everybody good? Okay. For the people that I can see, I got a thumbs up or a north south works excellent. Thank you. You don't have to turn your volume on, so we're good to go. So recently what we're doing, one of the first changes we made that's external that you'll see immediately is the closing off of some of the parking lot areas at a certain time of night. All right. So now the park itself. Now we're going to play by the park rules. Okay. But remember, we also have conservatory rules as well, which is slightly different, even though they're in the same space. All right. So the park says 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Don't park in there. You're not supposed to be there. If you are, it's trespassing. Now, realistically, what we know and what I know from my personal experience is that around 5 a.m., working class people and other people who are getting ready to go do their jobs, or people who are retired and have active schedules, like to get out into the park, like to go for a walk, like to take their dog out there and do their exercise and enjoy the park and what I would call the quieter time of the day. Can we all agree on that potentially? Does that sound about right? When I start to make these improvements or close off certain areas, I want to make certain that the community doesn't feel I'm shutting them out or stopping them from utilizing what you've always used. Okay. So that's my baseline right there. What I want to do is there'll be some times when I'm upping or attempting to up the external physical security of Franklin Park Conservatory. It may seem like an inconvenience to you at first, but if you ask the question to me, I would be your focal point on all these matters for Franklin Park Conservatory. I will get you an answer back and explain to you exactly why I'm doing it. You tell me your problems, I'll give you the answers. We'll both seek to find solutions. How we doing there? So good so far? Okay. So one of the things we're going to do right away and it took some time to get the approval as I work with leadership team and the CEO and actually with the board as well, is we're going to close down that parking lot on the east side of Franklin Park Conservatory, coinciding with the closing of the park technically, right? Remember the rule, it's 11 to 7 at 11 p.m. Now, if we have an event going on at Franklin Park, like Lights Aglow is supposed to secure, I believe, by 10 p.m. But oftentimes we have weddings and we have other scheduled events that come up at the park. So that wouldn't close off the entire parking lot. It would be closed to general traffic. Now, does that mean you can't come walking through there? Absolutely not. Does that mean if it's late at night and you need to go out, stretch your legs, take the dog for a walk? Does that mean you can't come through there? Absolutely not. What we're doing is we're trying to create a soft physical barrier in the parking lot, which is going to consist of folks, those really tall, thin traffic cones. We're going to utilize those at first as a test pilot and see how that works until we might step up a little bit more stronger access control to the parking lot with maybe something like something gated or something along those lines. But that's in discussion. That's not going to happen yet. So just bear with me. Again, just a soft touch at first to see what kind of positive results we can get out of that. So again, I'm trying to deter individuals from two things. First and foremost, the dumping of stolen motor vehicles, which we get quite often in our parking lot. And then the second thing would be to steal motor vehicles in the parking lot or have thefts from those vehicles for patrons who are visiting. So by shutting down the parking lot access at the appropriate times, then we can stem or kind of curb some of that flow, knowing full well we can't shut the whole thing down. We can't stop crime completely, but we're attempting to mitigate it to a moderate level that people understand. Well, it still happens, but we're doing our best. So the other part that we're going to look at too is immediately to the west of the conservatory, not the street that is furthest west, but the first immediate parking lot where you access from Broad Street. You come into the conservatory from north to south and you make an immediate right or traveling back to the west. There's a parking lot there that we're going to cone off because it's directly connected to us. We're going to cone that off as well and stop anybody from going in there in their parked vehicles starting again at 11 p.m. And we're going to open it back up though at 5 a.m. instead of 7 because again, I take into interest what all of you are trying to do, and which is enjoy your green space. So I don't want to prevent you from that. So if you drove in or you had to drive in because it was too cold or something, or maybe a little bit further away, and you drive in to do your walking or whatnot, that's great. We'll have that situation set up for you. So the standing rule right now will be 11 p.m. closing, 0500 or 5 a.m. close opening back up to create convenience for you. Right. So that's the first line I wanted to go through. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? That's just that first tier of improvement for physical security, but for community stuff as well.
I'm curious how often you have situations with people dumping cars or getting cars stolen out there. You mentioned that. I know my car gets kind of rifled through, anytime that I leave it unlocked. Somebody I think tried to kind of hotwire it once, but I'm just kind of curious what the statistics are around how often that occurs.
No problem. Thank you. That's Logan. Thanks, Logan.
Yeah.
So with respect to that, it depends on the season. So we have a higher frequency during the summer. During the summer, we were getting one or at least one every other week or one a week. And then we've had so in the month of November so far, I've had two stolen cars dumped in the lot. I've had 2 cars stolen, and I think I've had 2 or 3 that were broken into. And in the summer, we see a higher frequency because the majority of our auto theft crime and Roundtree, I don't see him on the list right now for the CLO for this. But statistically, folks, I will work on this too. I do have friends in the right places. I can reach out to them and help with this for you. And again, I don't mind doing this at all to get you some statistical information that tells you when our peaks and our valleys essentially are. But the majority of our auto theft crime for your age of your suspect is currently 13 to 15 years of age. The primary vehicle that they like to steal is the Hyundai because of the ability to break into it, its ease and access, and then it kind of goes from there. But that's what we're seeing primarily from what I've been able to glean from Lieutenant Crop and let's see, Sergeant Gillets he's on first shift. He's on the first shift precinct A company. So there, yeah. Great question. Anybody else with any questions on that? Okay, great. So the initial steps again is getting the parking lots buttoned up. We're going to see a little bit more signage also. So in the wooded area to the east of Franklin Park Conservatory, over by the train tracks, you're going to see some signs posted for no trespassing. And you'll see the city ordinance or a state ordinance written on there as well. So we're shifting gears a little bit with the trespass notices to make it so that we don't have to have a conservatory member on site in order to enforce trespassing laws, or how and they can act on our behalf. And law enforcement typically will not get involved as an actor for a private residence in trespass situations. However, because we are in Franklin Park, which does technically belong to the city, which is in fact patrolled by the city and is their criminal quote unquote responsibility, then they can actually take action should they choose. Now, they wouldn't do that on Franklin Park's side because we're a private entity and they need us, the quote unquote victim of this crime, in order to pursue charges. So what we've done is we're going to be setting up no trespass signs, and you'll see those posted cleanly throughout the area. If you should happen to see one of those, it's either damaged, destroyed. If it's torn down or painted on, please let me know. And they'll be utilized to let people know or give them notification. There's certain areas we don't want you in. And that's not the citizens in general for the area. This is more directed towards the unhoused individuals that we have. So recently, we know we have several unhoused individuals who frequent the park. No problem. They can be there during regular hours from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. But outside of that, they're supposed to leave. I've had to get 3 people out of the wood line here this month that were staying there and actually camped. There's no camping in the park. Should any of you ever wonder anything about that ever, if you see tents being pitched, by all means, please let me know. I will deal with it as promptly as I can. So we finally got them removed. We utilized 311, and it was a culmination of 311 and some other measures that I took in order to get some faster response to what was going on, and it worked out pretty well. So we've got them out of there now, so that's good. So should you see more issues like that happening within the park, please let me know. I will handle them as soon as possible. If you're having them in other areas around your neighborhood and you're just running into some walls, let's say you're just not getting the response that you need, send me an email, shoot me a text, and share information with me. And I'll be glad to see if I can get you connected with the right people to assist in moving this along a little bit faster based on the programs that quote unquote are in place. Sometimes we can work around those a little bit. We can get them done a little bit faster. It just depends. So again, for the community's sake, I'm willing to try and help with that through the connection with Franklin Park. Does that sound okay with everybody? Is that help welcome? Is that something that you see that would be helpful for you overall? I think so. Okay,
Yes, I
thumbs
was
up,
just gonna,
cool.
yeah, I'll get you Miriam. Go ahead, Miriam. You have a question?
Can
Miriam?
you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. I have 2 questions actually. One is when you mentioned that there are 13 and 15-year-olds that are coming in and or that are maybe from the community taking the cars, is there something that the department is thinking of doing to engage the young people so that they have something for them to be involved with, so they're not getting involved with stealing cars? And then my other question is, you said that there were 3 unhoused people that live in the or that were staying in the park. They were removed. And what do you mean by removed? Are you putting them in services, or are you just kicking them out to a different area?
Great questions. So let's address the last one first. That's the easiest one. So what we were able to do was expedite it through the 311 system faster to get them into the services that the city's now providing for our unhoused individuals. They have a process that you have to go through, and the services that they offer. I make sure that the people who I make contact with them first. I find out what their situation is. I want to find out if they've utilized those services or if they don't want to use them at all. And I see 2 very distinct groups of people when I've done this in the past, and in this group in particular. One gentleman was more than happy to receive some kind of help and get himself out of where it was, because winter is coming and he doesn't, the being cold and wet, and these are problems. And he actually left of his own volition, but he actually was attached, or excuse me, given information about the right people to contact and got some assistance. So I know that he was properly taken care of. The other was a couple that wanted nothing to do with any type of services whatsoever. So they were much more belligerent about the whole process, or just basically, we don't want to go into housing. We want to do what we want to do. Because, and what I find is, in my personal experience in dealing with unhoused individuals, it usually comes down to one of 2 things. it's either some levels of addiction that they have going on, or they have mental health issues going on. And if they have issues with addiction, whether it's alcohol or narcotics, they will not go into the housing, because one of the requirements for some of the housing units is that you have to be drug and alcohol free, or that you cannot be using drugs and alcohol in the services that they provide. If you get caught doing it, then there's a process, and eventually they will get evicted from that, and then they're homeless again. That's one example. The mental health part is different. There is a group that, again, within what the city has been set up with so far, excuse me, is setting up or has set up with mental health, is finding them the right direction to go to, making sure they're getting medicated and trying to find the housing. And that's a little bit different. So I see those are the two distinct groups that I see. And that group would actually happen to be one of the couples that I met, that was recently taken off the property. They actually, let me back that. They weren't taken anywhere. They left. They were given some extra additional stuff from one of the services to pack up their things and move along, and they just chose to leave. And that was pretty much it. Does that answer that sufficiently for you? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I was just
Mhm.
curious about the engagement with the young people though too.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for bringing back to question one. So what is happening right now? I personally, I cannot tell you. I can always ask about what's being done, but I don't have immediate knowledge of that. There's a direct correlation, and the correlation in effect when the new administration coming in with Chief Bryant and the old administration, the decrease in law enforcement officers in order to respond to runs, and where officers had been originally, or programs may have been in place initially, may have gotten either decreased in finances and or manpower, or they were eliminated altogether. But I don't have enough actual credible or empirical knowledge to give you a direction one way or another. Sorry, I can't. I would love to answer that question for you, don't get me wrong, but I don't have the most current information on that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Could you take about 5 more minutes with your main points, please, Larry?
Yeah, no problem. So listen, I'll end it with this. The conservatory really is working to make a lot of modifications, and you're gonna see some changes. There's a lot of internal stuff happening. The Palm House is currently ready to get renovated. That's going to be a big project, and then also other aspects of the building are getting to be renovated as well. So you're going to see a lot of stuff going in and out of there. What the goal is for me tonight, again, to introduce myself to you, find out what kind of things you guys have interests about Franklin Park Conservatory in the park, and let you know that I'm working with you and I want to work together with you. That you're going to see some security changes, and again, sometimes those are inconvenient. But utilize me as a resource to ask, hey Larry, why was this section of the park shut down for a period of time based on, this was really inconvenient. We're trying to have a party. And I will go direct with you and say, hey, I'm so sorry. Obviously, we had to do the following things, or these things are coming up. Also, preemptively, should I see things that might have an overall effect on the community as far as Franklin Park Conservatory and or the park is concerned, and I'm directly involved with that, I'd be more than happy to reach out to you and let you know that it's coming so that you can plan accordingly.
Thank you. Larry's email is in the chat, so people should open it and make a copy. But are there any other questions or any more questions or comments for Larry?
All right. Hey, thank you. I really do
Thank you.
appreciate it.
All right, we will be in touch. This is not the
All right.
last time you've seen us, okay?
Hey,
I have
that's
a
great.
question.
Oh, somebody in
Okay.
the back. Go ahead.
Just curious, due to your experience and the fact that you are in our neighborhood, any recommendation on the best way for neighbors to work with the police department in terms of lines of communication, as well as if we have issues, things that we're seeing? Because again, like, we're the people that live here in this neighborhood, so we might see stuff that could be beneficial in making our neighborhood safer. So having those lines of communication, I think, is very important. Any recommendations on how to communicate and how to get in touch with someone?
Okay, great. I know that you're utilizing your community liaison officer. Then they are good people as long as they stick around long enough to be in your community. And that's not a slight against any of them. It's just the fact that they get shifted around a lot. So sometimes your CLO or your community liaison officer isn't the most effective tool that you have, but that's what they'd like you to use. So reach out to your precinct officers. So in your area, particularly around Franklin Park, the majority of it is considered to be everything south of Broad Street, over to 71 and south to, I believe, they're shifting it up, Livingston Avenue, and then east towards Bexley belongs to 12th precinct. So that's a car with a 1-2 designator on it. So 121 or 120, you'll see those. Making whatever inroads you can make with them and contacting them and seeing when they're out and creating and just developing personal relationships with them actually is exceptionally is the best way to go about it. Whenever you decide to have some kind of function that's going on, have one focal person in your group that always reaches out once they've made contact with the 12 precinct officers, the sergeants, whomever. Have them continue to be that one point of contact, that one point of focus that they can utilize. When they get a lot of different calls from different people, it tends to get lost in the sauce. That's just the way the nature of the beast with, I'm not making excuses, just to give an example. On average, City of Columbus PD takes between 1.2 and 1.3 million calls for service per year. And so it's like, then they prioritize those calls and et cetera. And I'm sure you've heard this before, so I won't belabor the point. But if you have somebody that you can utilize as one point of contact and then reaching out and speaking with and developing the relationships with your precinct officers, by all means, do it. Another thing you could do is to help develop that relationship. If you haven't done this already, you can go down to where the precinct, the substation actually is. They're on Main Street in Carpenter. And the front doors are usually open in the lobby. You can ask ahead of time to meet with somebody, or you can actually just show up and ask to speak to the precinct sergeant, let them know who you are and the things that you'd like to do, and keep giving out those invites. Then you as a group in your area who are living through this day after day and see these things firsthand, your job is to continue sharing information with each other as much as you possibly can and looking for ways to organize yourselves to try to slow the stem of a problem. For instance, let's say you have a location where several juveniles are, for a fact, because you've seen it happen. Let's just say, well, we use the juveniles again, just as an example, where cars are being stolen, and we know that at this particular house, at least those two are responsible for at least 2 or 3 stolen cars recently because you've seen it happen, or you saw the police cruiser show up and drop them off, and you asked the officer what's going on, and they said, "Hey, this is what's up." You working together as a group, talking to the parent if you can, watching when you see those kids and reminding them, hey, you're bored, there's bad things you could do, there's other things you could be doing, trying to nurture the relationship as much as possible to try and steer them away from certain levels of activity. Because the bottom line is we really don't know what goes on inside those homes. We really don't know what happens in those relationships with their mothers and fathers. And sometimes just a kind word from any one of you uh, is enough to get a kid to probably change their mind or get them going in a different direction. So again, when it comes to policing, be the squeaky wheel, but find specific ways to talk to one person and keep inviting them to what's going on. Also, if you have any public town meetings or if you attend any certain meetings that the chief of police or any of her liaisons, any of the deputy chiefs are giving, make sure that you go to those to be as informed as possible. That was a really long answer for you, Tamika. I'm sorry. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Perhaps briefly, how effective is this shot spotter?
Okay, so interesting thing about ShotSpotter. It works, yes, absolutely. And I'm looking into why you've got that hanger on your door. But the truth of the matter with ShotSpotter, it is a method that detects the obviously shots being fired from a weapon. It triangulates the positioning through GPS in order to get a general location of where the shot was fired. Once that happens, cameras activate in certain areas that are on the ShotSpotter poles or in areas that we have tied into with crime cameras. Those cameras then activate and they're looking for individuals that potentially or that would have in fact firearm in their possession, or they can see somebody shooting. That's how that works. Now, from there, officers can respond to the area and they can stop and talk to people and they can take action based on what they see at the time. It's always based on the totality of the circumstances. All right. If ShotSpotter goes off and they don't get there for 45 minutes, chances are they probably don't know anything about what's going on. But sometimes, and yes, in my personal experience, when I was working, I could be sitting in a certain location and somebody fires off several rounds. I respond immediately and see somebody running from the scene and it appears they have a firearm in their hand, then I'm immediately taking action, right? Trying to stop what's going on or catch the individual doing what they're doing. So it is a good tool to have. It's primarily forensic, and meaning it's after the fact, but sometimes it can be used as a proactive tool. And the goal is if it's being used proactively, we have to use it within a really high level of constraint, maintaining the level of the law based on the Fourth Amendment and seizures. So we have to be very careful with that. And so sometimes you get good response from officers who are well versed in how the utilization of the tool and concepts of the Fourth Amendment. And then other times you'd get officers who are newer and don't know how to do it as well. And so you don't get as a productive response, I would say, about that. Does that
Well,
help?
thank you very much. That was very helpful. And
Okay.
you've not heard the last of us. We will respond as we see, various activities accordingly. Okay.
Thank you. Hey,
All right.
thank you everybody for your time. If you ever stop by the conservatory, please ask for me. Say hi. I want to meet y'all. Okay.
Okay, and please make sure the doors are open when we do have our meetings over there.
You let me know. I'll work on that for you.
Because
That's
believe me,
another step I'm
we've
working
been
on.
ringing the bells and ringing the bells, and we all have experiences with the security. Okay,
Well,
take
that's
care.
another one coming your way soon too. So we're gonna see some changes in those security teams. Don't you worry. I'm on that one. Definitely. All
Okay,
right. All
sure.
right.
Take
Thank you,
care
folks.
now.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Appreciate you.
Great. Okay, yeah, but it's interesting because of this Crime Spotter or Shot Spotter. If you provide information leading to an arrest, there's a cash reward, but it's really it's asking for us to call and share whatever we heard or experienced during that time that could still lead to further investigation. So there it is. Okay, minutes, Brian. Wait a minute, Will. I don't know, can we hear you?
I just wanted to clarify, I sent Larry a note. Kirsten and I noticed on the communication we were trying to have with our CLO, Community Liaison Officer, that in his signature block, he had misspelled the email address for his office. And so we were sending emails into outer space.
Gotcha.
And then Jesus noticed that today. So
Okay.
I let him know, I said, hey, I gave our people the info you gave me. And he said, hey, I gave you what he gave me. So we should have that straight. And hopefully, not only will be in contact with him, but he'll be a lot more conversant and polite than he was in the last correspondence I think Miriam had with him.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Will.
Mm-hmm.
Back to Brian. Is he still with us?
All right, the minutes were posted in October, and thanks to Joanna Harper for filling in while I was out of town. So, did anyone have a chance to look at them in the October folder?
Okay.
Brian, do you have any tapes of you being on the Kelly Clarkson show?
It's on her YouTube channel.
Oh, okay. We will look for you on her
and,
YouTube channel.
and at what point do we see you? At 8.3 or, do we have to?
I saw him.
You saw it.
You look great, Brian. You look like nerves of steel. I would have been freaking out.
It was
Yeah,
great
that's
show.
why I missed last month's meeting.
So I'm
Well,
saying,
it was a good cause.
we put
Good
it on
cause.
can we put it on our Facebook page? Come on now.
Well, that's up to Brian.
I think that's a great idea. Come on, Brian. You're famous.
Or at least some stills.
All right.
I am abstaining from voting. Does anyone have a motion to accept the minutes?
Well, we know what to do then. Okay. So please review the October minutes and act accordingly. All right.
Mhm.
So is there a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Ayes? Nays? Abstentions? I believe it carried. Didn't hear a word, but I will say it carried. I saw a lot of, Okay, treasurer. And you know you got to make it a little bigger.
Okay,
Those of us with aging eyesight.
all right.
There we go.
I have been putting the treasurer's report in the folder with the meeting minutes, and this is what it looks like. If anybody needs assistance in either finding the report or has any questions about it, please feel free to contact me versus fpcivic@gmail.com. But the report basically shows that we have close to a $6,000 balance. And we had this past month very few transactions. We had our regular operating expenses, Linktree, MailChimp, Zoom, and Sign Up Genius. And so our balance this month, oh shoot, can you get that, Mayor? I'm sorry, Kirsten. Oh, here it is. Was slightly more, 1,700 more than what it was the previous month. So, but what I'd like to do, we're expecting another, finally, donation from the Hilton to Greater Hearts and Hands. And what I'd like to do is get maybe the help of somebody who is really familiar with numbers or comfortable with it to help me kind of do an end of the year financial report and separate out Greater Hearts and Hands income and expenses from ours, so we can kind of have an end of the year picture by January of what our finances look like. Any questions on this report? All right, thank you.
Committee reports, activities and events. Actually, let's hold that.
Well, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'll get with you because I need to review some things with you about GHH balance. It was too quick for me and I didn't have a chance to look on it in advance, so I apologize.
Yeah,
But
no,
I'll
we
get with you
understand.
about it.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what Will wants to do is really be clear on, because that's going to be a separate set of expenses, and then we need to know generally what we need for different categories. So I'm sure you can find some time to get with Will. And Greenfield, okay, is not, so health, safety, and wellness, any representative?
I did talk to Pastor Greenfield, and he is familiar through his practice with several members of the Columbus Police, and he's working on having someone, probably our CLO, if not someone else, come to maybe our January meeting. And I would recommend him in his absence to be that point of contact. Okay. That our speaker
so you're saying you have a police officer for January?
He said he could.
Okay. I'd rather not have two security officers back to back.
Okay.
But
whenever we have him, he would be the
okay, that's fine. That's fair enough.
He'd be the person for.
Okay. Because I think, okay, what's outstanding here, and I'll take it up with Hannah, is Kim. Some of that money is for Kim, and we need to actually conclude that process.
Right.
So,
I've written her a few times and I have not heard anything from her. Okay. Unless I have her wrong email address. So.
All right. Well, I'll get back to it. I think I have two more checks actually.
Right. So
we need to conclude that by the end of the year, at least get the order and pay the money out and move that on.
That'd be great. Okay.
All right. Is Jay around? I know we saw one half, the other half.
He's here.
I'm here. So business and development, the big thing right now is working through the East Market stuff. There was a follow-up meeting 2 weeks ago, but unfortunately that meeting was fairly hijacked by another community member, and nothing came out of it. So I've been trying to work with Kate D'Souza and Anik to try to formulate some sort of response. We had talked about at that meeting doing a quarterly East Market working group where we can help empower the vendors. What?
No, keep going.
We can help empower the vendors and you know, continue to support them and help them work through some of the issues, as well as just be a positive force, you know, for the businesses in the neighborhood. That will continue to develop, and I'll keep you posted. Other than that, we are still looking for, after the first of the year, a good time slot to hold our first small business networking event. Starting to formulate some ideas on what that could look like, but the goal being to get a hold of as many businesses in our neighborhood as we can, and then just bring them all together and start just being the connection point for all of them, so they can utilize each other as a support network. So yeah, I think that's about it for business and development. There's not been much in terms of development news, other than the apartments across from the East Market were unilaterally denied by NEAC with Franklin Park's backing on that one because of the changes. Not opposed to the apartments, opposed to the changes to the designs and the changes to promises that were made initially. So I'll try to follow up on where that one sits as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Jay?
Hey Jay, I have a quick question. If it's small businesses in the neighborhood, could they rotate hosting in their actual business location?
Yep, that's kind of the intent. And we're gonna probably shoot for like a CBC or something for the first one, just not knowing what attendance will be and erring
I
on
think
the
it's a great
side of being too big. That's the hope, is that we actually outsize some of the ability to host, but you know, ultimately the goal is to really just kind of hook these groups up so that they can do events together without our backing. But yeah, we'll kind of see what comes with it. But the intent is not to just nail down and patronize, you know, one place with these. It's going to be to rotate.
Hey Jay, it's Bill. What's up with Adela's?
It is closed. They are shopping the lease right now. The caveat to that is going to be the owner of the building still has the same restrictions, or wants to place the same restrictions on any business that goes in there. So kind of remains to be seen what happens with that space. Patrick, who at one point was the GM, who now works at Rail House, is involved with several parties that are shopping the lease. But as of right now, it is closed, and they are trying to sell the lease.
You know, it's closed because they just got, not because of the landlord, but because of just wasn't working or whatever.
Well, the landlord wasn't helping in terms of putting restrictions on quiet hours at 10 p.m. Trying to limit the live music, you know, that sort of thing. So not really sure how you expected to lease out to a bar and restaurant and put, you know, certain quiet hours on. But that is being heavily scrutinized with the new folks that are looking at that.
Good to know.
Patrick lives across the street, so as anything develops, we'll keep you guys posted because he's got his ear very much to the ground on that one.
Thank you.
Jay,
any
do
other
you have any
questions?
insight into the new Franklin Park Apartments on Brighton Road?
Only what I've heard through a local artist that has toured. So I'm going to preface this with this is all hearsay. None of this is official. I'm hearing this secondhand. They're doing some renovations. They're trying to bring the apartments and then the actual just general spaces more up to date, clean them up, fix them up. There has been talk of there's actually some retail space in that building. Since it was the former hospital, and there has been some talk of reactivating that retail space, either as a coffee shop or an art collective. All that kind of remains to be seen, but the new ownership did at least, change the name, which is something that I know we've been asking for some time. So it's no longer West Bexley, it is Franklin Park.
Oh, there is new ownership.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not a
I
month,
wasn't clear on that. Okay.
Yeah.
No. It
and
says,
we have-
new
It
management.
says it on the sign.
Uh-huh.
Yep,
Okay.
and we've noticed a positive change just in the fact that they're upkeeping the space around.
That's great.
The apartment
Exactly.
now. So even just like some small change, it seems as though this management group is present, and
Okay.
some of the ones in the past have
Good to
been.
know. Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. It's definite change.
Mhm.
Okay, anything else for Jay? Okay, thank you, Jay. Well, we saw one new member in our treasurer's report. Is there anything else on member relations?
Not not really. We're still in search of a membership chair, and we can only double the salary so many times. But
Before we start adding, dinners at your doorstep by 7 o'clock every night.
right. Yeah, so
Okay.
if anybody has any kind of thoughts and whatnot, or recommendations, but we're still trying to kind of make that happen. So
Okay, now Gary's got something to say.
yes.
Hello, Chair.
Yes.
So one of the updates from NEAC, Jay did a great job covering pretty much a lot of the things that are going on in the neighborhood. One thing that came across planning, which is going to general body next, is skip zoning, is there's the demolition of the, oh God, I'm going to mess this up. It's the neighborhoods building, CMH
Neighborhood
building.
house.
Neighborhood
house on Atchison. Yes.
On
Oh wow, the whole building.
Yes.
Yep.
The
Because they're
whole
putting in
building.
housing.
So they have been having trouble maintaining the building.
Yeah.
And I think the last tenant has not found a place to land. It hasn't fully moved out yet, but they came through NEAC to seek approval for their demolition notification for their demolition. A lot of feedback, and as they come to general body, we're hoping to gain more community feedback on what the building itself meant, because there isn't a lot we can do. It's in such disrepair. It almost feels like they willfully neglected it. And our goal is to try to find community recommendations. We offered as NEAC to host a community meeting, like a district meeting, to collect that support and direction for what they would like to see there. Because that's something that we did not hear back from them. They were like, oh, we did a feasibility study. It doesn't make sense to sustain maintaining it, especially with no with nobody living here, currently no businesses, and any renovations are going to cost XYZ million. It just makes more sense until we have a plan to just tear it down, because we run the risk of, youth in a vacant building and just a lot of different things. We're like, okay, we understand what you're saying. Doesn't really feel like there's a lot that NEAC can do to stop you, because only thing that this does is expedite the process within those 60 days. Once those 60 days are up, they can still demolition without our approval anyways.
Yeah.
And so we're using it as an opportunity to create dialogue and get more out of them in terms of, what are your plans for this? Don't tell us what you're taking away from the community. Tell us what you're putting back. And they have acknowledged that it is housed so many different great community resources. And but now, as our neighborhood is kind of turning, kind of seems like really, 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 really good timing that all of a sudden it would be tearing down this building on a huge plot of land, very close to another building that looks like it's going to be potentially vacated, right? And so we are letting them know what we're seeing. We're talking about this open in our meetings. And if there are any recommendations for what it could be, whether it is affordable housing with commercial space to house social services, or if there is a need to restructure it as another community space. They are just looking for feedback from the community, because for somebody who has a keen idea to tear something down, they're really drawing a blank on what to put back. And that just doesn't, like, the math isn't math. So that's probably the one out of our whole agenda. We had 9 total items. A lot of them were just regular NEAC stuff, small projects. This was one that was, I think that this garners a lot more community conversation and input. So if you are free, the next NEAC meeting is going to be December, let me not lie, December the 14th at Model Neighborhoods, which is 1393 East Broad Street, right at Lotta and Broad, at 6:30 p.m. Yeah, that is what I have for our NEAC report.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Gary, briefly?
I do. Gary, for the NEAC meetings, do you have the Zoom option or a virtual option?
Yes, but it's not participatory. We have a Facebook live stream that allows you to view and see and hear what's going on in a meeting, but it's not interactive, unfortunately.
And following on that point, we want to confirm, because some of us had different perceptions. You save those recordings and post them somewhere, or?
Yeah, since they're Facebook lives, they're just saved on our Facebook page in our feed. So you should see it on our wall after the live is over.
Okay, very good, very good. So I had a different question if Tamika's through. When developers, kind of get into these larger, more complex problems, is it generally your intention to request that they meet with the local neighborhood group where the project's going to be before they fully engage in NEAC?
That's usually our expectation, and we've tabled some projects to make sure that they go back to civic associations or neighborhood watches to get that kind of feedback and support. We have done it where, since the first place that they come to is planning, and as the planning chair, I've let them know, like, hey, every time that you come to one of our meetings, this is going to be our question. This is in our notes. And we are going to continue to ask if you've gotten that feedback. And if you haven't gotten it between planning, zoning site, when you come to general body, and we've already told you 3 other times, don't be shocked if we table you. Right. So now you burned a month on your development.
Yeah.
When within that time, you could have either scheduled and reached out to a civic association president to make this happen, or you could have attended a meeting.
Okay.
And so we are really pushing back on them to make sure before we take a vote that if there are communities and organizations that need to have that conversation with them.
Right.
Perfect example. So there's a development where Deal Whitaker currently exists.
Sure.
Going to be building a huge complex there.
Right.
Originally, they did not go to Bronzeville.
Wow.
Now, Bronzeville being very supportive of the density and of the newness of space, it wasn't really a problem, but that's not what we're asking people anymore. We're asking them, don't make the assumption that you have the approval. Just go and have a conversation. The same way that you plan to come to us through the zoning department, plan to have this conversation with them, because we keep seeing the same developers. And I will tell you, developers, they after they get tabled for a month, they start to remember the order of operations. And so we have seen some success in holding people accountable and having the conversations, but sometimes we have, new developers come all the time, and we hold the line. Another thing that we just started doing on the commission is that we started hosting conceptual reviews, and those conceptual reviews allow a developer to come get our general feedback before they start the clock on submitting their application through zoning. This allows them that if they need to go and shop or they're not sure exactly who or where to go, now they have the full blueprint. They've heard it from the horse's mouth. And I think it's been wildly successful. A lot of times we've been able to give good feedback on, hey, you need to go talk to the neighbors. We know the neighbors and we know this neighborhood. They're going to have a problem with this, that, or the other. So that's a great question.
Well, and Will, to that point, we have gotten a couple of these that have come across the Franklin Park development group. They've all been, at least to this point, very small, minor, non contradictory, like they're pretty much sign, seal, deliver kind of deals. If anything comes across that would kind of fall outside of that it would be something that would be potentially disruptive or that would require further feedback, those are the ones that we would bring before the larger group.
And in that, we also see there's a development that was supposed to happen on the corner of Morrison and Oak. Yeah. So they came to us one month. The chair actually came because she was here years ago when they came originally.
Wow.
And we were able to hold them accountable to what they originally said they were going to do. Very similar to what the East Market Apartments did. Waited a couple years, figured it would be a new regime change. It came with a slight change, just a slight change. And because we were able to look in our notes, we've gotten a lot more organized and look in our notes and tell them, like, no, these were our problems before. We tabled you, you came back. You have a worse proposal now. What do you want us to do? Even if we approve the last one. So just hoping to continue to provide transparency and to be more a better safeguard against people just running through the community.
Right.
And we're all for density, but we don't want the density to take over the community feel and or our parking. I'm the parking czar, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. That is my question every general body, every planning meeting, because that is one of the important things to me about our community is that we always take that into account. I don't want to be German Village.
Right.
Okay, let me go back to neighborhood house and who owns it? Who is responsible for the building?
CMHA.
It's CMHA, all right. And,
it is, they still own it.
And I understand.
It was a land lease, I believe.
Okay, that they're a fairly vocal group of community citizens have come together, community members have come together and have presented some proposals. Is that accurate? They've just
Not
made-
yet. That's what we're trying to let them know, that once they are at the point where they are trying to figure out what to put there, come back to NEAC. We will host a ad hoc district meeting on your behalf to have the conversation. So similar to the same way that we're doing the business meetings with the East Market.
Yeah, because I've heard various rumors. The land in front of St. Dominic's, and then the jump over to Monroe, and it's just going to be, and that CMHA is just replacing, they're basically going to upscale housing. That and the transitional housing. That's really where the money is transitional housing and upscale. And so CMHA is going to do this network of developments there on the, in that area.
And it's not just CMHA, but also at 18th near Children's Hospital.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a new transitional house that's going there. It's about 40 units.
That's
but that's
one,
not with
Harriet's
CMH. That's
Hope.
with a different.
That's Harriet's Hope. And,
Yes.
and it opens next week, and it's 98% full.
Oh, no. This is a new development that hasn't broke ground yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is
Well,
at near 18th and Main, but on I can't think of the name of the side street, but yeah, it's across from that large parking garage on the other side of 7.
Yep. By B&K Barbecue over that one.
No, further down.
No, 18.
Further down, further east, further west. Let me think it. Okay.
I'm like,
thank you, Gary.
you're welcome.
And so
Where
this
Buster
all,
Douglas is left.
it all helps us, keep perspective. Can we go to activities and events? Do our general activities and events, and then segue into Mingo 2024. Anyone?
Well,
Hello, Miriam.
well, I missed the executive meeting, unfortunately. But there was something, one of our first the New Year events is going to be the board games, the game night in March. And we're going to be doing it this year in a different location, the Viridian Room inside the conservatory on the first floor behind the entrance there. I believe we decided to book it and instead of the Adventure Center where it was last year. And I think in December starts up the winter hikes with Walk with the Doc, but it won't be in our neighborhood. It will be, and it's every week actually. And during the winter months, they meet up north in Antrim. What's that?
I thought it was High Banks, but Antrim.
High Banks. I'm sorry, High Banks. At High Banks. So it's a bit farther, but I was wondering if maybe we could post something for whoever members would like to go. We could post and see if we could get like a carpool going and then meet at Franklin Park and then, put number of seats that people have that they're willing to drive and then head up as a group. And maybe we could, that way we can still do walks once a month for us, but definitely market it in such a way that we can maybe bring some people if they don't have a way to get there. Because High Banks is not close. It's pretty far. It's a solid 20 to 25 minutes.
Is. So, Miriam, if I may,
and I don't have much information, sorry.
Well, but you, Kirsten and I were at the end of the year celebration for Walk with the Doc over at the Venture Center. And one of the things we witnessed is how many of the different clubs, because there's several clubs around the metro area, travel to other locations to walk. And they said as soon as we start having walks, they want to come walk with us. So I think that is clearly in line with the way that kind of a network of organizations works. It doesn't mean we have to have 5 people, but like Linda's best friend lives right up by High Bank. So, if you can kind of find a reason to do that and something else, I think that would really work for some people.
And then it's a way of networking. And then when we start doing our monthly walks in our neighborhood, we already know people. Then we can have them come down and
but they said,
I wonder if we keep up the consistency of the first, which might be hard this month just because we're literally there basically, but the first Saturday of the month, trying to organize something to get a few people up there. Just keeping in line with what we're already doing. And then it's just something that's kind of running year round, but in the winter, it's not within our own neighborhood.
Mhm.
Okay.
I did, I'm Sylvia, and I tried, took that to our church at Love Zion with with Wesley Greenfield, Pastor Greenfield. And they were really excited about doing the walk with the doc, but I just was out of town the week before, so I wasn't able to, coordinate with everyone.
Sure.
So it's something that definitely that the church, a few people were really, really interested in.
We will keep
Great.
that in mind.
Good to
Yes,
know.
absolutely.
Okay, the first Saturday in January is the 6th. And so
Oh,
that's
that's
enough
perfect.
time for people to have recovered from their
Yeah.
And
festivities.
walk off
They
the
need to start
And they need to
transgression.
walk.
healthy
They
journey
need
for
to,
the year.
resolution.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
that's right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
I
so
like-
maybe we won't worry about December or just, do a similar,
Yeah.
but then focus on January, and that'll be part of our 150 kickoff as well.
I like it.
Yeah,
Ooh,
that'd be great. And then we can also
sounds
mark it
good.
as a resolution thing too. I like that.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
a
great.
resolution walk, resolution ramble,
Revolution walk. All right.
Mm.
I like it.
thanks, good. Okay, other things, are general events. Or do we
Carol, did
just-
you have something?
She's gonna do mingle.
Nope, you're still muted if you were saying something.
Okay, start on mingle then.
Not mingle, 50th, you mean?
Huh?
Did you mean mingle?
Yeah, she's mingle.
Well, 50th,
Okay.
but yeah.
Okay, 50th. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm saying mingle. I'm saying
Yeah, it's
50th.
right there.
You know what I'm talking about,
The
50th.
whole year.
So let's do 50th and then the mingle will be included in that.
Yes.
So
Good thing
50th,
that,
the pass committee.
Yeah.
Carol, where were you going with that?
the good thing is that, Nationwide Children's Hospital and Mount Carmel St. Anne's are happy to be involved in our 50th anniversary celebration. So we're going to be meeting with them, right at the first of the year. I took it like it was their New Year's resolution to be involved with us. And so,
Oh,
I was thinking about when we set up this meeting to set it up over in Franklin Park to look at a space so that by looking at the space, they can see what their possibilities are.
Carol must be, her professional writing skills show through because them people answered within
They
an
roll
hour.
right back.
They were like VPs. One was like, we have an archivist. We want to do this. I was like, well, how did this child? I mean, I'm telling you, minutes.
That's impressive.
That's
answer
impressive.
everything.
I gotta tell you, I was shocked.
I was too.
Don't. Yeah.
Oh my God, they really want to do this. Yay.
Yes, that's really so, and they're gonna put some money into it.
Well,
Yes.
I'm
Wow.
Well,
gonna,
That was what I was wondering.
yes. Yeah,
No, no, they're gonna put
they're
some money
gonna
into it. Okay, so
take them
get us
down.
up a meet at
Did you talk with OSU then, and not hear back from us? I'm just curious from the Wexner.
about which, Bill?
About, what Carolyn was just talking about,
Oh, we
Yeah,
have, we have.
okay, so
I don't think
so
we've got to them yet.
technically is OSU in Woodland Civic Association area or Franklin Park?
it's in
We're just gonna-
Woodland.
Woodland.
We're across by, okay.
You know,
Now, you do know the history of OSU. Do I need to do
No.
that? Huh?
I know our history, but
And you know St. Anthony?
yeah.
Okay. All right. So if you want to do the history, we could do, we could talk about including OSU.
I mean, I just can see where people are at. I lived on the Woodland Park side when it was Park, St. Anthony and then Park Medical, before the OSU took over.
Or say elsewhere. Okay.
So, and we're celebrating all year. So, as we say at each one of our meetings, there's room across the year to do a variety of things. Not everything will fit in the March box, but as Miriam was saying, that we had been number one, and there's a report that's again in the same folder where the meeting minutes are. I can commandeer the screen and show them to you, but it has some useful links. And what we decided is we want to have an event that was informative and fun. Okay. We didn't want to have a bunch of kind of dry speeches and whatnot, but we want to have a way to show and talk about our history through displays, etc. During one day. And so we looked around, and the Adventure Center was a little bit above our price point, above our, outside the range of our pocketbook. So the conservatory offered to let us use a kind of a wing of their facility that's called the Viridian. It's actually kind of 3 spaces, 3.5 spaces on their community day in March. And we would be, they'd make this space available from 1 to 5 for free. And one of the benefits of being there is that is the same time that they have the orchid show and the bloom and butterflies. So that would give, in my mind, incentive for people to bring their families over, come to our event, go explore the rest of the facility while they're there. And then to top it off, they have the Columbus Chamber Orchestra that's going to play in the Palm House, in the Wolf, what do they call it? The Wolf Palm House. 2 performances free during part of the time when we're set up there. So there'll be a lot of kind of magnets there. And it's a couple people point out, we want to, the committee is working with partners who have said that they want to help, want to be involved, but we want to find a way to shoehorn everybody into that space and help people connect with those organizations, through kind of some digital presentations, some actual physical presentations, some interactive things, etc. So I would just ask that you look over the outline. Hold on, we have.
I got it.
Okay. I know Frank went over to the building, I'm sure. To look over that outline and send us any question or feedback about the kind of things that we have laid out for that event. We had, in addition to the 2 hospitals, there's some categories of institutions that we're reaching out to. Educational, we've reached out to A+ Academy. We have not yet heard anything from the, what is it, Girls Columbus, where we vote, Columbus Girls Preparatory School. But we plan to, and there's one other educational institution. And then Central Community House said they're definitely on board. The Model City, the folks at the Pride Center, which used to be the Model Cities building, they said they would participate. The City of Columbus Department of Neighborhoods said that they would support in any way that we needed. Parks and Recs, which actually has about 5 facilities in our neighborhood. They have Academy Park, they have Adventure Park, they have Kwanzaa Playground, and a couple other spaces. So, and Franklin Park itself. Okay. So, getting all these folks to kind of tell their histories. And as Carol said, there's usually somebody who is the keeper of records that we want to kind of talk about how things have changed and evolved since they were in the neighborhood and this space where they currently occupy. For example, Columbus Academy started over on Nelson Road, but they've since moved over on Cherry Bottom. But we want to talk about, what was happening then when they started and how's that space being used now. Same thing with St. Anne's. They started out on Bryden Road, but now they're up in Westerville. So helping people, and it's ironic to me, every time I look on Instagram, what have you, somebody is doing some kind of comparison between then and now, on their page. So We should have fun with it. It should be a matter of great interest, we hope, to people who are new to the neighborhood, new to the area. You know, I forgot all about the fact that the Discovery Theater that's downtown next to the library, or right behind the library, started off right here in Franklin Park.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's
Okay.
all those kind of things. And
We
then we
got,
have our heroes and legends from the neighborhood. So we want to try and find a way to highlight these, some key components of those, not every single one, but some key components of those institutions of residents and that type of thing in that activity on March the 3rd.
okay, we've got the broad overview. We know to go into the file and add additional information. We've got 10 minutes left. We can go over, but can we, are there any actionable items with respect to the 50th anniversary that we should hear about this evening? And or can the rest of it be held over to the December discussion?
There is one thing. So we talked about the 50th, and we had also talked about having a mingle in June. However, the education pavilion is no longer available. The conservatory has booked it. And so they're asking us to either look at another date or another location.
Okay, you didn't tell me that. I sent a.
Well, it was in the
email to them
mailbox.
today.
It was in, I thought maybe you saw it. Yeah,
Huh?
she wrote back this afternoon, the lady did.
Okay, so
I didn't
look
find
at
it
it.
out. They sent,
Okay,
they respond to your letter.
okay, all right.
And
So
so,
Can you hear me now?
yes, yes.
Okay.
And so one of the things we may want to consider is whether, especially if we can get some contributions in the first half of the year, is whether we want to go to the Adventure Center, which is a much bigger place, and have our mingle there, which would be indoors. I don't know if we could have alcohol and whatnot there, but do the mingle there, because that's the next largest place in the neighborhood to have an event.
And the kids can play around in there too.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
Have power, we'll have access to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta believe that they make some kind of provision. I don't, you know, for serving alcohol. You know, maybe not walking around the park with it, but serving
Within
alcohol.
the building.
Yeah, in the building. So, and I mean that may or may not be a deal breaker. The more we kind of look into it. So,
Brian thinks no alcohol since it's Parks and Rec.
okay.
yeah, I would. I'd like to keep the second. I'd like to keep that date. So if Park and Recs, and then we have to fundraise for the fee.
Right.
Because even though it's further apart, we can still do that joint. It's important to, you know, do it together.
Is it just the date that's not available, or the area isn't available at all?
No. The only just for FYI, for you know, continue. The Wells Barn for 4 hours is $4,000. Okay, in case nobody understood that. So the only thing that's available to us is the AEP building on that date, because they've already booked the Columbus Symphony for the conservatory, the Palm House, and they've got something else in the bottom room. So I don't know another space within FPC that we could actually use on that day, because that is the community day and they've booked. So we would have to go to another part of the park if we were to stay on that day or change dates.
So Tamika, were you talking about for the March event, for the or the mingle?
I'm talking about June.
And in June. So in June, it's pretty much the same set of circumstances. I mean,
no, that's why I just explained, Will. I just explained the June dates.
And the
Oh, well,
AEP
you're
building,
talking about the symphony and whatnot. That's in March.
No, please. Tamika, what were you saying?
the AEP building, is that the building we've had the past 2 or 3 years?
Correct. That's a small building at the Horseshoe that we've had our activity. That is booked for June 2nd. So, and because it is the first Sunday in June, the conservatory has already booked other activities for the other spaces. So over in the Palm House, they've got the Columbus Symphony, and then they've got something else. And that the other thing usually takes place in that first floor room to the right, that long room, okay? So the spaces we normally use are already booked by the various activities for the first Sunday. So what we would have as our option would be the Adventure Center, which is it's $1,500.
Yes,
It's
for 4 hours.
$1,500 for 4 hours. So I think that that is something that we could fundraise for comfortably, and it's still in the park. People would be able to find us, and we would also say that or use, come hear the symphony and then, do this activity, et cetera, et cetera. So let's think about that, and we'll work on it in committee.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is it possible to just rent a tent and mount it someplace in the park somewhere?
That's something that we could look at. Okay. Bye, Miriam. She's gone. Okay. What else? Anything else? Updates on the 50th?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Richard.
On this Thursday, November 31st, I have been invited and bring guests with me to St. Charles Preparatory School. This is their 100th year anniversary. And the principal of the school has been there for 42 years. They just hired this year a community organizer to help organize more events for St. Charles to get into the community. We have been invited to lunch at 11:15, and they want to give us a tour. They want to get in a conversation as how they can help us with our 50th anniversary. They have several nice pieces. They have a jazz band, they have orchestras, they have several things in place already. And they would like to see how they can help us celebrate our 50th year. And so we will be talking about that. Also, East High School is sending their athletic director down, Anthony Brown, and Bexley is sending their athletic director over to have lunch with us so we can get into a conversation about a broad range of activities, including how they can support us with our 50th anniversary. If anyone wishes to join me, please call me by tomorrow so I can give them the names of the people who are coming and how many. And this is the 31st at St. Charles Preparatory Boys School at 11:15, and they're going to give us lunch and conversation plus a tour. So please, if anybody wish to join me, please call me or email me or text me, and I will add your name and you can help us with the conversation. From what I understand, they have an excellent jazz band. The principal said they ain't many, but they're awesome. So, and he's willing for them to come and see where they could fit in our year-long celebration.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Anyone else?
I would like to, I saw on the calendar that there was still a discussion about doing a garden tour in the summer. And Simply Living is very interested in helping to make it happen and would like to just, figure out, continue the conversation to be part of that in July or August and whenever it happens. And bring our
Michelle,
Okay,
sorry, Lynn.
thank you, Lynn, and we may, put you on organizing that, but we'll see. Let's give it a little bit more, a few more days. Other questions or comments?
I just have one thing to report. Michelle Bailey, who heads up the teen corps at the conservatory, did approach me regarding coming up with some way we can participate in the summer markets marketplace. Franklin Park Association, she recognized it was the 50th anniversary. She recognized we are also here. I don't know what shape that might take or what you would like to do, but that's also an opportunity for us to get out and be present in the community and at the marketplace.
Okay, let me work with you on that.
Okay.
Because yeah, they're different issues. Okay.
Yes.
Anyone else? This Saturday, the Healthy Community Center will be distributing leaflets throughout the community for next Wednesday's December 6th meeting at East High School. So if anyone wants to join us, we'd appreciate it. We'll meet at 9 o'clock at the parking lot beside the Wallace Auditorium at OSU East. Please, a great opportunity to walk. We're just going to be passing out leaflets and encouraging people to come next Wednesday night. Any questions, you can call or text me, email me between then.
What day is that? Passing them out?
Saturday, this Saturday, December 2nd, 9 a.m., the parking lot next to Wallace Auditorium. Okay. Others?
Yeah, just let me see one thing.
All right. All right. Start decorating your homes. I mean, for the Deck the House Holiday Lights competition.
Yeah, I forgot the name that's going to be there Thursday. Pastor Wesley will be there from Love Zion also.
Right.
On Thursday.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Okay, we said we would at the executive committee, and then last night, getting we practiced on some of the certain technical matters and we were not very successful. So we did say we would move to Zoom, basically for winter. So for tonight, next week, next month, January and February. So if there is, if then Brian tonight popped up and said, let's cancel December. I just want to, just make sure he wasn't being facetious. But otherwise, I just want to confirm that next month will be Zoom. We talked about the ugly sweater, and we'll pass around the cookie recipe, and we'll just toast each other with some eggnog. But it would be good to see if we have any other updates on the 50th, because we really should be kicking off the 50th in January, or okay, as part of the Healthy Community Center, we will be doing a cooking class again, starting January 11th, I think, and it'll be 5 days. In December, January 11th, we'll start the Let's Cook, the second series of cooking classes at Legacy Point at 6 p.m. and it will go through February 15th, February 8th. It goes through February 8th. And then February 9th, I will actually be a guest lecturer at the Franklin Park Conservatory as part of their community garden program. So, you know, because we've just been harassing them about getting different people in. And I know Will represented at the chili cook-off. I really meant to be at the chili cook-off. Sean called me at, you know, like 15 minutes ago talking about, oh, well, will you bring when you come? I'm like, when I come where? I mean, I just completely, you know, but we got some, you know, pictures afterwards. And it was really shocking because there was really, you know, a lack of diversity. I mean, that's the only way I can say it. I was just, even Will wasn't in the pictures, and I knew he was there, but it was just really interesting on Facebook to see these pictures. And I'm like, I know we've been putting in all this effort, had all this work and discussion. Why is it still looking the same? Or it regressed because, you know, last year we were just like all over the place. You know, the conservatory is making efforts, and I did agree. And I picked February specifically as part of, you know, Black History Month, because again, we're going to do something on the first Sunday in February there. And then I thought, okay, on the 29th, I'll do this, you know, guest lecture, and we'll see what we can do to keep making Franklin Park the people's park. Okay, anything else? We good?
Deck
Yes.
the House. The Deck the House competition is underway, and then also the District 4 meeting is this Thursday at the Pride Center. Gary forgot to mention that.
There is a ramble coming up next
You're right,
week or two.
Brian. Sorry.
Is your house on the ramble, Gary?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. All right. Thank you. Will do, Will. Will do. All right. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in
Second.
favor? Then I will see you next month on, what did we say? After all that discussion.
The 19th.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Take
Bye.
care.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.